This Korean family had their sights set on America. They dreamed of a new life in the US. Sadly, their visa applications were denied. Stuck in limbo, they decided to make a temporary stop in Colombia while they figured out their visa situation. Their arrival was anything but smooth. As soon as they stepped off the plane, chaos erupted. Imagine the scene. They're probably tired from the long flight, disoriented in a new country, and suddenly, what's going on? My bag. He has a gun. Damn it. Give me my bag. Gaui, in a desperate attempt to recover their stolen belongings, jumped out of the vehicle and chased after the thief on the motorbike. But a man on foot is no match for a speeding motorcycle. He could only watch helplessly as their bag disappeared down the street. This was Colombia's harsh welcome gift. Now they were stranded. All their money, passports, everything gone. Their only hope rested on the father, Mr. Song. Back in his younger days, Mr. Song was a soldier stationed overseas. He even fought in the Vietnam War. During his time in the war, he saved the life of a fellow soldier named Djang Su. This Djang Su, as it turned out, was now living a comfortable life in Colombia. Mr. Song was certain that Djang Su would help his family. However, when they finally met Djang Su, he wasn't exactly welcoming. "What? I almost died because of you. Don't you remember?" There seemed to be some unresolved tension between them. Despite the awkward reunion and past grievances, Djang Su, remembering their shared history, agreed to help. Djang Su ran a business importing clothes from Korea. To keep his shipments coming in on time, he needed to maintain good relationships with Colombian customs officials. For this reason, he had married the daughter of a high-ranking customs officer. This meant that Korean businessmen in Colombia had to go through Djang Su, essentially kissing up to him to ensure smooth import operations. The family followed Djang Su to his shop. Djang Su initially planned to give Mr. Song a job, but the real decision-maker was his wife. She didn't want Mr. Song, but she took a liking to Gaui. "You'll work here. You work here." And so, Gaui began working as a laborer at the shop, hauling and lifting goods. His mother found work as a seamstress, utilizing the skills she honed working in a garment factory back in Korea. It was at that very factory that she met Mr. Song, Gaui's father. Mr. Song, in his entrepreneurial endeavors, had once run a small manufacturing business. Unfortunately, it went under, leaving him in significant debt. But Mr. Song, ever the victim in his mind, blamed everyone but himself. He insisted it wasn't his fault his business failed. It was the government's, society's. Now in Colombia, he refused to work. While his wife and son toiled day in and day out, he spent his time drinking, carousing, and getting into fights with other Korean immigrants. Time passed, and Gaui adapted to life in this chaotic and often dangerous environment. The years flew by, and before he knew it, the year 2000 arrived. While life had stabilized somewhat, Gaui still longed to return to Korea. Then, a surprising opportunity fell into his lap. The smuggling routes Djang Su used for his clothing business had become increasingly perilous. He'd started hiring armed guards to protect his shipments and needed someone trustworthy to oversee these operations. He saw someone in Gaui. Djang Su started to cultivate a closer relationship with Gaui, sharing stories of his own past. He described how he'd started small, using his army discharge money to launch a tiny business selling women's underwear, and how he'd worked his way up to where he was now. Mid-conversation, a Colombian man on the street called out to Djang Su. "Hey, how's it going, amigo?" Djang Su introduced the man to Gaui as Alexandro, the head of a Colombian trade association. This Alexandro, it turned out, had connections high up in the Colombian government. Even Djang Su, the Korean son-in-law of a customs official, seemed to hold a lower position compared to this powerful figure. Alexandro often mocked Djang Su, referring to him dismissively as the cockroach. Despite this, they were business partners and perhaps even a strange sort of drinking buddies. Gaui made a mental note of this Alexandro. Djang Su, meanwhile, continued to paint a rosy picture for Gaui's future. "I have a good eye for people. You're not like the others. You're not like your father, and you're not like these other Koreans here." Djang Su clearly saw potential in Gaui and viewed him as reliable. Having laid the groundwork, Djang Su offered Gaui the opportunity to oversee the armed transport of goods. The job was inherently risky, but if successful, Gaui knew he'd become Djang Su's right-hand man, elevating his status significantly. It was an opportunity he couldn't refuse. The journey involved navigating a complex web of dangers. First, they had to avoid rebel groups, then bypass police checkpoints, and finally, deliver the goods safely to their destination. Accompanying Gaui on this journey were two other key players, JV, a local Colombian driver, and Su Yang, a specialist who handled the, shall we say, logistics of the operation. Su Yang's role was to bribe customs officials, because while they declared 1% of the clothing they shipped from Korea, the remaining 99% was smuggled in illegally. The reason for this elaborate smuggling scheme was simple. Legally importing goods meant paying hefty tariffs. After paying those tariffs, there'd be almost no profit left. Customs officials were well aware of these tactics, but Su Yang never skimped on bribes, greasing the palms of everyone from the top down. So they turned a blind eye. After all, tariff revenue went to the government, not their pockets, while bribes were a direct personal benefit. This widespread corruption ensured that Mr. Park's smuggling operation usually ran smoothly. However, all it took was one honest official to throw a wrench in the works. Unfortunately, they encountered just such a principled inspector. The group was stopped on the road. Su Yang, the seasoned fixer, didn't panic. They tried to negotiate. But for Gaui, this was a terrifying first. Confronted with armed soldiers forcing him out of the vehicle, he panicked. In a reckless attempt to save the smuggled goods, Gaui floored it, trying to drive through the checkpoint. Shots rang out, puncturing the tires. The vehicle crashed into a roadside sign. Seeing that the vehicle was disabled, Gaui scrambled out, grabbed an armful of the scattered underwear and bras, and ran. His only thought was not to betray Djang Su's trust. However, the Colombian customs officers quickly caught him and beat him mercilessly. Locked up in jail, Gaui thought his life was over. But then Djang Su appeared at his cell door. Gaui, eager to please, offered him the last 2 pairs of women's underwear he'd hidden in his clothes, a gesture of absolute loyalty. Djang Su burst out laughing. "Are you crazy? What is this? Put it away. Damn." Those bastards beat him to a pulp. Thanks to Djang Su's connections, despite the close call, they escaped serious consequences. Gaui was immediately released, and the goods eventually made their way back to Djang Su. Gaui's desperate act of loyalty cemented his place in Djang Su's inner circle. He began to interact more with those around Djang Su and other Korean businessmen in the area. Djang Su had a close friend, another Korean businessman. This man was originally an acupuncturist but had made his fortune smuggling jade in Colombia. Then there was Djang Su's nephew, known as Little Park, who primarily ran karaoke bars. And Su Yang, Gaui's partner in the smuggling run, was a Korea University graduate. He'd initially come to Colombia as an employee of a Korean car company. However, he was laid off during the financial crisis and ended up working for Djang Su. Su Yang, with his prestigious education, took great pride in his Korea University degree. His friends were also Korea University alumni. Little Park, with his limited education and nouveau riche attitude, intensely disliked Su Yang's air of intellectual superiority. The two were like oil and water. One day, Su Yang, using the excuse that Little Park had sent Gaui to supervise him, took a jab at Little Park. Little Park, couldn't he just come and supervise himself? He's got too much time on his hands. Damn it, don't you dare call me Little Park. The two nearly came to blows. Thankfully, Djang Su intervened, but the animosity between them was palpable. This wouldn't be their last conflict. Sometime later, one of Su Yang's men approached Gaui discreetly, asking for help with a smuggling operation. Gaui flatly refused. Shortly after, Su Yang's men clashed with Little Park's crew at a karaoke bar. Su Yang's bespectacled henchman nearly drew a gun. The incident was eventually smoothed over, but tensions remained high. Djang Su held both Su Yang and Little Park in contempt for their constant bickering and fighting. In contrast, he viewed Gaui in a new light. "From now on, call me uncle." Gaui responded respectfully, saying he would do so in the future, but for now, he would continue to address him as boss. This tactful response further endeared him to Djang Su. "I hope you can survive this and finally move to District 6. Su Yang wanted to import a shipment of down jackets to Colombia. "You really think you can sell those here? This country is spring all year round. Who's going to buy down jackets?" That's because they don't understand. People in hot places are actually more sensitive to the cold. Even if the average temperature is high, there are bound to be a few cold days a year. They can wear down jackets on those days, can't they? Su Yang was determined to sell these jackets, but he still relied on Djang Su for the smuggling operation. He didn't want to be perpetually under someone else's thumb. Just as Gaui, on behalf of Little Park, delivered a previously empty gun now loaded with bullets to Su Yang as a not-so-subtle warning, Su Yang decided to try and recruit Gaui to help him establish his independent operation. He laid out his arguments, appealing to Gaui's ambition. What can you achieve working for someone else? Especially someone like Djang Su, who's all sweet talk to gain your trust and exploit you. Once he's done with you, he'll discard you without a second thought. Djang Su, having gotten wind of this, saw an opportunity. The down jackets were lightweight, fashionable, and most importantly, a novel item. He also wanted to test Gaui's loyalty to see if he would side with Su Yang. Suspecting Su Yang would try to slip his goods in with Djang Su's during customs clearance, Djang Su told Gaui that his goods were in boxes with blue labels. He instructed Gaui to pull aside Su Yang's shipment first and bring it to him, effectively planning to seize Su Yang's entire shipment. In reality, Djang Su's goods were in the boxes with orange labels. Because he didn't fully trust Gaui, he deliberately gave him false information. It was a test of Gaui's loyalty, a way to prevent him from actually helping Su Yang with the smuggling operation. Even in the worst-case scenario, if Gaui did help Su Yang, he'd only be delivering cheap underwear, not the valuable down jackets. The remaining boxes with blue labels would be transported back by the local driver. Djang Su planned to keep Su Yang's down jackets, sell them first, then go to the Chinese factory Su Yang was working with and buy up the remaining stock. That was his scheme. But on delivery day, when they retrieved the boxes with blue labels, they were shocked to discover they contained only underwear, not down jackets. Gaui had seen right through Djang Su's ploy. Djang Su wanted absolute loyalty but didn't actually trust him, hence the deliberately false information about the blue-labeled boxes being his. Su Yang, on the other hand, had also been distrustful of Gaui initially, but he'd been much more upfront about it. Damn it, why should I trust anyone? Did I ask you to trust me? You have to trust yourself. Weighing the two men, Gaui chose Su Yang. He'd switched the labels, putting orange labels on all the boxes that originally had blue labels, and personally delivered the down jackets to Su Yang. Su Yang, upon receiving the goods, immediately put them up for sale. The down jackets were a hit, and Su Yang made a killing. Even the local Colombian traders were envious. Their own goods weren't nearly as popular, and they could only watch and fume. To ensure the longevity of their business, Su Yang took the initiative to reconcile with Djang Su, offering a 60-40th profit split. With profit on the line, Djang Su readily agreed, acting as if the previous incident had never happened. Gaui now worked directly for Su Yang, and while encounters with Djang Su were slightly awkward, the substantial profits overshadowed any lingering discomfort. Gaui was making enough money to buy a house in Colombia. This is for you. Wow, this looks expensive. Of course, it's expensive. I wouldn't give you something cheap. My dream isn't to be a smuggler forever. I want to open a luxury shopping mall in Colombia, something that will drive South Americans crazy. Their plans were grand, but the Colombian traders weren't about to let them take over the market. Alexandro secretly approached customs officials, bribing them to confiscate the Korean businessmen's goods under the guise of a crackdown on smuggling. This time, Su Yang's shipment, worth 400 million won, was seized. Gaui had invested his entire savings of 200 million won in the shipment. Other Korean merchants had also contributed significant amounts of capital. Christmas was approaching, and they'd imported a large quantity of goods specifically for the holiday season. Now, with their goods confiscated, they were facing financial ruin. Someone suggested using a more dangerous smuggling route. While riskier, it would at least allow them to get some goods to market. Gaui, desperate, volunteered to take on this dangerous mission. Everyone pooled their remaining funds and entrusted them to him. But upon returning home, Gaui found an unwelcome visitor. You can start over. Give that to me. During the ensuing struggle, Mr. Song even fired a gun at his son, the bullet narrowly missing its target. Gaui felt the chilling brush of death. Terror paralyzed him. Mr. Song grabbed the bag of money and fled. Awaiting him outside was an accomplice in a getaway car. Gaui was about to be ruined by his own father. He knew the money was gone, and he'd be torn apart by the other Korean merchants. He had no choice but to chase after them, recklessly pursuing the car. Suddenly, a motorcyclist appeared, forcing Gaui to swerve violently to avoid a fatal collision. He crashed into a fire hydrant. The getaway car sped away, but Mr. Song wouldn't escape for long. His female accomplice shot him dead. She'd clearly decided that the old man, now with the money, was a liability. "Dada, my money, my money." Even in his dying breath, the old man offered no apology, only repeating, "Money, money, money." Mr. Song was dead, A devastated Gaui returned to the Korean Business Association. He promised to repay everyone for their lost money and goods. Damn it! How dare you show your face here? Get off me! Am I wrong? Gaui got into a fight with the man, but his actions were futile. No one even attended his father's funeral. After the funeral, Su-young advised him to disappear for a while. You need to leave. It's your only way out. But Gaui's mind was fixated on Alexandro. He'd learned that their confiscated goods had been given to Alexandro by customs. Unwilling to run, he took a desperate gamble. That night, he went to Alexandro's warehouse, posing as one of his men. He told the warehouse manager he'd been sent by Alexandro to pick up the goods. Damn it! There's no way he came alone. The other guard in the room, alerted by the commotion, rushed out, firing his weapon and shouting. But the guard, despite firing wildly, missed every shot, proving himself a terrible marksman. Gaui ultimately overpowered him, beating him senseless. He'd managed to recover a portion of the goods, enough to get everyone through the Christmas season. However, there was a problem. Colombians didn't kill people on Christmas. That didn't mean Alexandro wouldn't come after Gaui once the holiday was over. While his friend was deeply worried for Gaui, Su-young remained indifferent. He's not a Korea University guy. Why should I care? Djang Su decided to try and reason with Alexandro to protect Gaui. But walking through Alexandro's door was like walking into a trap. Isn't it you? You say you didn't do it? Your dog dared to rob my warehouse and you say you didn't do it? At the same time, Gaui was attacked by a hitman. Seeing that reasoning with Alexandro was impossible, and that Alexandro was demanding Gaui's life, Djang Su saw an opportunity. Alexandro even offered to forgive all of Djang Su's past transgressions if he handed over Gaui. Upon hearing this, Djang Su immediately made peace with Alexandro, abandoning Gaui to his fate. Suddenly, Gaui walked into the restaurant, very much alive. Both men were stunned. I won't give you a single penny, and I won't give you anything. I paid your hitman double. A gunshot rang out. Alexandro was dead. A shocked and disbelieving Djang Su asked Gaui what the hell he'd just done. I have to survive to move to District 6. Gaui replied calmly. Gaui then sought out his Korea University graduate friend, asking him to deliver a box of pastries to the Colombian customs official, Carlos, the one Alexandro had previously bribed. The visit was a combination of threat and enticement. He warned Carlos that Alexandro's murder was causing a stir, and Carlos's position was in jeopardy. After letting that sink in, Gaui presented the box of pastries, which, upon opening, revealed a stack of cash. The message was clear. Continue cooperating with them, and there would be benefits. No need to worry. With this masterful display of power and manipulation, Gaui smoothed everything over. He'd established a direct line to Carlos and demonstrated a ruthless efficiency in handling the crisis. He now had the leverage to replace Djang Su. His first act upon seizing power was to send men to find and eliminate his father's killer. 3 years passed. The political winds shifted. The National Assembly proposed anti-smuggling legislation, cracking down on illicit trade. Gaui, having amassed a fortune, decided to take this opportunity to go legit. He would transition from smuggling cheap clothes to legally importing high-end fashion, opening a luxury shopping mall. But his men disagreed. Su-young, in particular, wanted to continue bribing and smuggling. Don't push it. I make the decisions. He refused to listen to reason. Predictably, one of his shipments was seized. Other Korean merchants also had their smuggled goods confiscated and destroyed. Enraged, they took to the streets in protest, clashing violently with the police. Bloodshed, even fatalities, seemed inevitable. Gaui tried to intervene, urging them to abandon smuggling. But blinded by greed, they refused to listen. I heard Boss Song supports the anti-smuggling law. Does anyone here support it? Who would support such a law? Gaui's pleas fell on deaf ears. He could only watch helplessly as the situation spiraled out of control. In the end, many were not only beaten by the police but also arrested. To try and resolve the situation, Gaui sought out Djang Su, who, though stripped of his power, still held the nominal title of president of the Korean Business Association. Believers leave a temple not because they dislike the temple, but because they dislike the abbot. Djang Su feigned neutrality but was clearly implying that Gaui had lost the support of his people. Gaui warned him to stay out of his affairs. Djang Su said nothing more, simply agreeing to help gather the Korean merchants for a meeting. Before the meeting, Guk Hui privately approached Su Yong, with whom he had a closer relationship. 3 years prior, after the incident with Alexandro, he'd usurped Djang Su's authority, becoming the de facto leader of the Korean merchants. Su Yong had gone from being Guk Hui's equal to his subordinate. Now, Guk Hui showed Su Yong the plans for his shopping mall, which was already under construction. He wanted to persuade Su Yong to join him in a legitimate business venture, to abandon smuggling, and finally realize their shared dream. But Su Yong flew into a rage. They argued and parted on bad terms. The meeting began. Guk Hui offered to compensate everyone for their losses out of his pocket, on the condition that they stop smuggling. His offer was met with rejection. It wasn't what they wanted to hear. Little Park even proposed forming a new Korean business association, excluding Guk Hui. The new shopping district needs management. Give us the management rights. Their demands were outrageous. They not only wanted to oust Guk Hui but also seize control of his shopping mall. It was clear Su Yong was behind this. Guk Hui, betrayed by those he'd once led, remained outwardly calm. As if he'd anticipated this all along, the meeting ended in a stalemate. Neither side had budged. Guk Hui's situation was precarious, but no one expected things to escalate so quickly. Guk Hui was leaving the clothing market, heading home as usual. As his driver pressed the key fob, the car exploded. Guk Hui, standing next to the vehicle, was thrown several feet by the blast. He was rushed to the hospital. Miraculously, he'd survived with only minor injuries and would make a full recovery after some rest. Su Yong and Little Park, however, were terrified. On the surface, they were Guk Hui's biggest rivals. The attack, coming so soon after their meeting where they'd effectively declared war on him, made them prime suspects. If Guk Hui had died, it would be one thing. But now, with him alive, they were the ones in mortal danger. Panic spread through their ranks. Those connected to Su Yong and Little Park scattered, fearing Guk Hui's retribution. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Guk Hui knew it wasn't Su Yong. He'd orchestrated the whole thing. It was a calculated move to intimidate his rivals. He knew someone wanted him dead, but by staging this attack, he'd thrown his enemies off balance. Su Yong's crew had deserted him, and even Little Park had fled Colombia in terror. Given their past relationship, Guk Hui offered Su Yong one last chance. If he simply pretended nothing had happened and stayed, Guk Hui would allow him to remain. Su Yong erupted in fury. "I'll kill you, you bastard. Not just you, but your mother too." Su Yong, having refused the offer of a peaceful resolution, chose violence. Djang Su's old acupuncturist friend suddenly attacked Su Yong with a long needle, piercing his neck. Su Yong collapsed, speechless. It was clear Guk Hui had persuaded Djang Su to help him. With Su Yong dealt with, Guk Hui and Djang Su went to dispose of the body. Guk Hui removed the watch Su Yong had once given him and tossed it into the grave, severing their ties. On the drive back, Djang Su excused himself to urinate. As Guk Hui sat in the passenger seat, completely unguarded, a gunman appeared and fired a shot. Luckily, Djang Su's car had bulletproof windows. The bullet ricocheted harmlessly. Then, Djang Su turned around, a gleeful look on his face, and introduced the gunman as Alexandro's eldest son. Guk Hui and the gunman shared a blood feud. It became clear that Djang Su had harbored resentment all these years, waiting for the chance to eliminate Guk Hui. As he spoke, Djang Su pressed the button to lower the car window. He assumed Guk Hui would be killed instantly, but Guk Hui was faster. He produced a gun seemingly out of nowhere, firing through the window, killing the assassin, then turning the weapon on Djang Su. Another gunshot echoed. Guk Hui was the last man standing, the ultimate survivor. The film ends here. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, follow, and support the channel.